Hello, friends. It's the Cinemondo podcast. Have you guys ever heard of a character named Superman?
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a dog.
I'm wearing my Clark Kent glasses. You don't even.
Oh, Mark, there you are.
Exactly. Who is this guy?
Wondering where did Mark go?
I thought it was this new person that we had here.
Such a great,
such a great podcaster.
Such a great costume. A pair of
Yeah.
glasses. Yeah.
But they explained it in the new movie. Have you guys seen the new movie? Should we do an episode of the Cinemondo podcast about the Superman movie?
We are really overdue.
Yes, this is a world. This is a smash. It's it's filling up theaters across the country, worldwide, and it's wonderful that James Gunn has brought the summer blockbuster back, because we've had some hits, Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and some other things, but this one really is sort of like the blockbuster.
Yeah,
and it's Superman.
I was glad, because people were kind of like, I don't know, can James Gunn pull it off? I don't know if he can really does anyone care about Superman anymore? And I love, like, there was this kind of low expectation of the movie in a way. Like, they're like, I don't know. And I love that he brought his James Gunn magic and just totally reinvented it. Like, this is Superman now. Everybody went, I like it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, there's been so many Supermans. So I mean, starting back with before Christopher Reeve, but the thing is, recently we've had multiple ones. Relatively recently, I mean, we had all those Superman movies that we've seen that we could go into, but let's not. But
well, they were those the one starring Henry Cavill as Superman. Great looking guy, but they were kind of a darker, Man of Steel.
Yeah, we were kind of doing that for a while. The sort of darker, more tortured superhero. That was kind of the thing for a while.
The Zack Snyder stuff.
It was almost like they were going for what we expect Superman to be. Like, here's what the people want to see. They want to see him flying, and they want to see him fighting, and it's like, but the point of Superman, I think, kind of got lost in a bit a little bit, I mean, it's like the godlike, we've talked about this with Superman. I mean, superhero movies in general. The thing with DC Comics and Marvel, there's always this rivalry, like Chevy and Ford and all that. But the DC characters tended to be sort of godlike and a little bit more in fantasy realms. Superman could lift a mountain. He could tear a mountain and lift it and carry it and throw it down and dam a giant river, and he could basically invent. And the funny thing too is he would invent a new power. Like, suddenly he has super breath, and suddenly in this episode, he's got super high speed, whatever, super high speed internet or whatever.
In the Christopher Reeve one, he could fly around the earth and spin it back in time. That kind of stuff.
But the Marvel characters tended to be more grounded. We have Spider-Man, who had trouble at school, and and his Aunt May, who was always sick, and he had to take care of, and the Marvel characters tended to be more human. And I think that was the thing that was missing from some of the DC characters. They were too, like, godlike or perfect. That's what the Christopher Nolan Batman movies were great, because they made him human. They made him, you could hurt him, he could get hurt, and he wasn't 100% a good guy all the time. But those are very different. Those are still dark and more in reality. But what James Gunn did was he reinvented, but he went back to the old style of the crazy comics that were, that the old Superman characters, where you have the Hall of Justice and all this,
right?
And they're fighting like giant robots with tentacles. And he brought back in people like Metamorpho, who was pretty awesome. And
he went back to that, like the classic comics of Superman. Even like the golden age of Superman, and into the silver age. So, and that's just so fun to see on the screen. It's like, oh, we're seeing something that's fun, that's sort of up. It's not a downer, it's an up.
Right.
In the best way.
And he brought that James Gunn humor, which sometimes it can work. Sometimes I feel like he didn't have enough serious, but I think he got a really good balance here. But it was mostly optimistic.
Yes.
And it did have like kind of a good natured overall vibe, but it did have, there were still stakes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I like that James Gunn tends to bring like really good peripheral characters. Like they're not just these side characters for Superman. They actually matter. Like I love how they treated the Green Lantern in this. I thought hilarious. And I love all those characters. And the I think his name is Anthony Carrigan, who played Metamorpho.
Yeah.
Loved him and Barry. Like he totally stole the show, Barry.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
always good.
He was even good, and all he would really do was kind of like be very serious, and but he was still bringing something, and that's the kind of magic. I think the magic power that James Gunn has, is he makes all the characters very vivid and they matter. Let alone bringing a dog in. Let me just say how much I love James Gunn, because he loves animals, and apparently he did a whole tie-in with Crypto and Superman to bring attention to these dog rescues.
Yes.
And by doing that, apparently they broke all kinds of records in the dog adoptions because of this. And I'm like, that is why James Gunn is the freaking best, because he loves animals. And I love that every animal in peril here got rescued. Superman saved a squirrel. I mean, I will love James Gunn forever for that scene.
Well, why wouldn't Superman do that if he could?
Exactly. And he didn't even want to kill the monster. That's why I love is like this big monster, and he was so cute when he started. That little cute monster comes out, and you're like, I don't want to see him kill the cute monster, and it gets really big. And Superman was trying to save it. He goes, no, I don't want to kill it. We should take it and we can study it and let it be. And of course, Green Lantern won't listen. He's dead.
It looks like a dirty Stitch when it came out of the box.
Yeah, it kind of did. It was so cute. It was so cute, a little guy, and he just grows really fast. And I thought that was very cute. So Superman, he never thought anyone was bad. Like he was just trying to do good. That's what he even said. I'm just trying to do good. He kept telling people, why are you doing this? Because it's like good. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love the shtick with the dog is great, because there's this incredible scene where there's all this chaos, and Lex Luthor, who's being Nicholas Hoult, is great, just a super snotty, and he busts into the room. He's like, "Where's the dog?"
Yeah. Well, what would you do if somebody took your dog?
I would do the exact same thing. That's why I loved it.
Seriously, I'm gonna go get my dog.
And it was great to see the dog in it, because the dog was in the comics. The dog had a big life in that world. But it was missing from all the movies. I guess because you couldn't really have figure that out, how to make that look realistic, like a super dog. That's kind of hard to do, but they could do it.
There's a fine line there.
Yeah. And I love that James Gunn did interviews where he talks about the dog is based on his real dog Uzo, who's a rescue, and says he's such a terrible dog. All he does is destroy things. He's super naughty. And he's like, I'm going to base this dog on my dog. He's the best.
Yeah. That's the thing about this movie. There was a undercurrent or a overcurrent of goodness to it. Superman was a good guy. Superman was always the good guy, the justice guy, the truth and justice in the American way. But he was he was more invested in doing the right thing because of I think, and the guys who created Superman were they were immigrants or children of immigrants, and they had heard all the stories of the Nazis, and their parents left their countries because of persecution and all that, and they came to America, and that's why that whole American way thing is with Superman, and his spirit of wanting to make himself good, to be a good guy. And the idea that in this one that they approach that, where the reason Lex Luthor is resentful and hates him is because he's an immigrant. That's right.
There was that undercurrent that was great. Like, it always seems like Superman has this timing to kind of address what's happening in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we need a hero, there seems to be a Superman movie to give us the hero, and I love that they brought that in.
Yeah.
And they have Superman, like they even have that great scene with Lois Lane where she's interviewing him because she was giving him shit because he only interviews himself as Clark Kent interviewing Superman. He got his inside. And she's like, you always let yourself off the hook. You're way too easy on yourself. So she goes, let me interview you. So they have this great scene doing this kind of back and forth in their living room. And she's just like, it really brought home, like, how do you know who the bad guys are? He goes, well, because and she goes, you don't know for sure. And he's like, well, this side is bad because this side's doing that. She's like, yeah, but they think they're doing the right thing. So it got very Israel.
Yes.
So I like there was a little tiny bit of that. but you see the complexity because you have a guy who really wants to help, and he's not necessarily always getting it right, but he just really wants to help. So you're like, oh. So that was really, I thought that was refreshing on a lot of levels because you got a lot of insight into the character and the relationship. She wasn't letting him off the hook. She wasn't gonna be an easy on him, and he was kind of seeing that like, who is this woman? What? Wait, we don't agree on everything. Like it was just a great little scene. I wish there'd been that was my only quibble. Maybe a couple more of those great just talking scenes. It was full action, almost 99%.
Yeah.
But that little scene stood alone to me as like a special scene because you really saw the characters. You know, I really like that.
And I thought the acting was great. I mean, I really like David Corenswet as Superman. He brought something a little bit different than like Christopher Reeve and Henry. There was what's the word? Vulnerability, maybe, or something like that. That just sort
humanness. I think there was a human aspect to it. I think a lot of the other Supermans have kind of played a little bit on the I am an alien, I am from another planet kind of thing. I mean, Christopher Reeve was really super likable, but there was no flaw in Christopher Reeve's Superman. He had no flaws. Like the scenes where there's a scene where Christopher Reeve says, I never lie, you know, like he's like, and that's built into him, you know?
Yeah. Clark Kent was a bit of a dork. I mean, purposefully, but he was a little bit of a dark.
I think the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, you know, Mario Puzo wrote the first, harken back to the TV show with George Reeves, where he was sort of like this guy that was, you know, was just a god, basically.
That's who we needed then. That's
and
what we
needed. Represented goodness.
Right. We get the Superman we deserve.
So, and I like Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane.
Oh, she was great.
She's really brings a strength to that character that I think was missing in some of the other, not so much Margot Kidder. I thought she was really strong, especially in the first one, but some of the other Lois Lane seemed to be a little bit more, I don't know, not as strong-willed.
Well, she had in addition to strong-willed, she also had a personality, which was interesting. You know, she wasn't just one of those strong-willed tropes, you know.
Right.
She actually had a personality that was interesting and not just a tropey thing, but playing Superman, I'm sure there was tons and tons of discussions about how unusual to make him, you know, like, should he be an alien among Earthlings? Should he act, you know, like, but he'd been there for a while. There was like an opening crawl at the beginning where they had some tight, like, I think he had arrived 30 years ago. I think it was 30 years ago he arrived.
So, he was just a baby.
Right. He was a baby and grew up on the farm, you know.
And that world, that world that we saw in the movie was accustomed to it said something like 3,000 years ago the meta-humans arrived or something. So that world has lived with meta-humans for a long time, and so that's why there's a couple of scenes where there's a scene where Lois and Superman are talking, and there's this giant monster squid jellyfish thing in the sky, and they're not even looking at it.
Like, it's one of those things. So let the Green Lantern take care of it. It'll be fine.
And when the giant monster's attacking, there's people that aren't even watching the TV. There's that one woman in the room who's just like got her back to it, and she's talking about something else. Like, what about that guy you're dating? You know, and they live in that world which you're dropped into, which is really cool. You're dropped into
another one of those things. You know.
Yeah. It's an alternate world, and it's so cool. You pick it up pretty quick, you know.
Right, like, you sure do.
And there were some great
spaceships. You know,
there's some great set pieces. You know, I love the Mr. Terrific is another great character that stood out, and they kind of land in this area with all these, you know, soldiers, and a big bubble around, like he's walking and he's with Lois Lane, and she's like, so he puts a big bubble around it. So the great thing, I love the camera work in that, because basically you were inside the bubble with Lois Lane, and you're spinning, and you kind of see a little bit of her, but the camera's kind of around her and over, and it feels very chaotic, but you feel, you know, it's her point of view, but you kind of see her in this low angle, high angle. Beautifully done. I loved that. So good. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. And then I also just love the flying sequences. You know, it was always like, you'll believe a man can fly. It's like, not only do we believe it, we got to fly. Like they did that camera work. I feel like I was flying in a really cool way. Like he'd fly right at you, and then spin, and then you're kind of flying with him. It's so well done. God, it's gorgeous. Love that. And I love the pocket universe. I love the tour. Going in, and he shows that endless array. And this is why I loved how they brought in social media in a few ways that were really smart. the array of monkeys, and they're all
they're
all like, you suck.
Yeah.
And he's like, these are all my monkeys, fart out, hate speech. It's like, oh my God.
It's great. It's so smart.
Prisoners, so smart. And then I love that social media brought down Lex Luthor because of his dumb girlfriend influencer, right? She's all, I'm taking pictures of me.
She was smarter than we thought. She knew what she was doing.
So she had all this evidence behind. Look, I'm doing a little selfie, but she had all this evidence behind. So smart. So that was really fun. I love how they used all of that. They brought in like people videotaping and like even like making Superman look bad because he got caught on tape saying something. Really cool. Caught on tape. Caught on social media. But yeah, it was really cool how he was able to intertwine all of that into this movie.
Why James Gunn is smart is like, because he's sort of heading up this sort of DC revival, trying to sort of, get it to the place where
bring it the Marvel treatment.
Yeah.
But he takes each film, each character, like Superman, he said, this is going to be sort of a positive sort of, that's what he feels Superman should be, which is different than another DC character might be a different tone to the film,
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really smart to sort of say this is a Superman movie, the way I envision a Superman. But it harks back to a lot of the Superman comics I used to read way back when. And I was never a huge Superman comic guy, but I did read them. And it felt like this guy knows the comics.
And that's why I love James Gunn is he's a fan. You see the sincerity, the true love for the characters, the in-depth feeling and vibe he has for everything in it, and how he wants everything to be enriched and alive. And I love that he brings all of that love to the movie. You see that's something we talk about sometimes. You see the love of filmmaking in this movie. And that's what I really appreciated. Like this guy loved doing this. He loved bringing crypto into it. He loved all of his side characters. It's like, I love that. And he brings that. That's why I like James Gunn.
He gets the appeal. It's like the folks that make the Marvel films. They get the appeal. They understand that it's, that a lot of it is Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. And this one, I think he was getting the whole Kurt Swan thing, going back in time to those early Supermans. There was the early Supermans that were just wild and wacky, and yet they were compelling stories. They'd pull you in. There was humor. There was absolute weirdness, like super apes and, strange Brainiac and
Mr.
Mitzi Piccolix or whatever. But then in the 70s, I think like 70s or so, there was the brooding. They brought in the Neil Adams kind of Batman, which was like, he was more of a detective. They were more noir, and then there was the kind of brooding Superman, the problems of being Superman,
tortured.
And those, I think people, I kind of stopped getting into Superman around that time.
Not fun anymore.
I missed the weirdness. I think a lot of it is just the imagination behind so much of it. Because if you write a story that's basically like a detective solving a murder, it's like, well, I've kind of seen that. Like,
and there's a lot of comics that do that, and but the Superman was you can do whatever you want in a Superman comic. Anything goes.
Fight giant robots and stuff,
I mean, it's some of that set pieces like the Pocket Universe. I'm like, I can't even imagine wrapping my head around what that would look like. Like when he has they're in that big river of energy and it's like, look out for the black hole at the end, or it's going to explode the universe. I'm like, how would that look? And then they have all these these weird block kind of structures everywhere that you could have these little portals to the Pocket Universe. I thought they did an amazing job of making that make sense.
Yeah, it was crystalline. It was forming in those kind of square,
good
mineral crystals.
I love that.
It was really cool. The production design was great.
They did a great job on that.
The cities and the way that it was like it was just so comic book. The idea that there's a giant split opening up, splitting the city in half. That
was really well done. It was so epic. Oh my God!
Yeah.
And I also love Lex Luthor had those cameras around that. What was that? The bad guy in the big uniform.
Yeah.
We won't give anything away about that, but I love how he was able to anticipate all of Superman's moves with these cameras. So he was able to give commands to this robot, and he was always one step ahead. I love how they solved it with, hey, Crypto, get that ball.
Get the toy.
All you have is this dog chomping all of these cameras. It was the best. It was so good. So anything Crypto, I'm all for it. It was great.
Yeah. It's really, it's deserved. It's deserved of all the money it's making and the accolades. We needed that.
We need the Superman right now.
Yeah,
we do.
And I love that it's popular, and I also love that it's making real bad. Like, I don't want to use the a-hole word, but it's making those kind of people upset. And I love the fact that people are responding saying, so you're feeling triggered by a movie that's about being a good person.
Yeah. Is there something you disagree with what Superman's doing in this movie? Oh, you don't? But then again, it bothers you. That's interesting.
It's so like woke or something. But Superman has always been woke. He's always been an immigrant. And people are posting on social media now these old things from the 50s where Superman is talking. There's some kids talking about, why is that kid? He never talks to us. He never plays sports. And Superman lands next to the kids in the neighborhood, and he says, because he is an immigrant, he had to get away from a country that was mistreating his family, and he came here, and he's like, he's been through hell, and they take him. He said, let's go to his country, and he flies these kids over to his country. And he said, this is where he lived, and he was forced to live here by these terrible tyrants, these fascists, and he came to America because America welcomes people like that. And so the kids were like, gee, Superman, we're going to be nice to him now. And
America's awesome. That's why everyone wants to come here. We should welcome them with open arms. And
I think the people that are triggered just really don't even know what Superman is. They might have seen one movie. They don't get it. They don't really care enough to get the whole mythology.
Superman cares about the world. He doesn't care just about America. That's bothers people, that he cares about what's happening on the other side of the world.
Why should that bother you?
Well, these are people that were bothered by recent Star Trek episodes saying Star Trek suddenly became woke. And it's like,
because it had women and black people and also weird aliens. So whatever.
Go back to when Star Trek first came out in the 60s. There were television stations that were banning the show because they had a black woman on the bridge in a position of power and a Japanese guy as a navigator. And people, there were networks, local stations in towns that were affiliates. Yeah, that's the word I'm searching for. That were not showing Star Trek. And there were certain episodes of Star Trek that had themes. The one with Frank Gorshin comes to mind.
Half black, half white.
Half black, half white. And he's like racist against this other guy. And at the end, they're like, you guys are both half black and half white. How come you hate each other? And he goes, are you blind? He's black on the right side and white on the left side. And I'm black on the, and it was like that reduced racism down to how absurdly stupid it is.
And that's
Star Trek has always been woke. Sorry.
And Superman, like, he calls them humans and he talks about the world. All the other shit is made up. Like, we're all the same DNA. We're all the same carbon, footprint. We are humans. And I don't know why we have to treat other people like they're not humans. And so I love that he was like, Superman even went to the extent of like every living thing. So he's like saving squirrels the same he'd rescue a little kid to get them out of danger. He doesn't care color, species. He's like, world, let me help you. And it's like, I wish we had more of that.
If I can help, I'll help. That was the theme, I thought. If I can do it, if I can help, then I'm going to help.
I'm not going to let this entitled rich guy named Lex Luthor take over the world and treat everybody shitty. That was his plan. Like,
and basically,
Lex Luthor's a bad guy.
I think the origins of racism and cultural bigotry and all that kind of stuff comes down to people who know. I mean, that whole thing, united we stand, divided we fall. Yeah. It's like, united we stand, but if you can divide us, then we're going to fall.
We're weaker, and we will fall.
So you send an agent in to just whip up all this divisiveness and all this hatred and get people feeling resentful about those immigrants who are taking away your jobs. Those immigrants are taking away things from you. The immigrants are bad. They're the ones who, the illegals and all that. It's like that divides us. Yeah. And that's the dangerous. That's the super villain. People who do that.
Well, it's smart that James Gunn could fold that into what this but
and not in a preachy way.
That's what I was going to say. It wasn't preachy. It was done in a very up sort of way, a fun way. Everybody's having a fun time at this movie. People that are not having fun are the people you're talking about, Burk, who get triggered and just walk away. You don't get movies.
You don't get. And when I was at that movie, I went to see it at IMAX opening weekend. I saw families there little kids dressed like Batman, adults dressed like Batman. Like people were
Batman.
there. I mean, I'm sorry, like Superman. I'm thinking of I was in the theater had this Batman statue. So I love that there were like families there were little kids were dressed like Superman. They had the capes. I mean, full costumes, not even just like a t-shirt. But there were people there with the t-shirts. There were people there all dressed. I thought that was the cutest thing to be there in the middle of the day, an opening weekend, dressed like Superman. It was so cute.
I went dressed as underdog, but it didn't go over.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Anyway, highly recommend the new rendition by James Gunn of Superman, and he had a really good box office. It's like breaking records, so
it's a good movie.
So he, they were banking on him. They stole him from Marvel. They wanted him to be DC Resurrector, and he did. And they're like, "Thank you, James Gunn. Please do more," and he will.
But he did it in a way that wasn't just a direct lift of Marvel style.
Absolutely.
It was not Marvel style. Yeah. It was very DC to me. It had that DC flavor, that DC, weird, bonkers, nutty. That's right. The monkeys, typing and things like that were so old school DC style. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't lazy about how he brought his James Gunn-ness to the film. He
brought his fandom. He brought his love and sincerity. That's
of the material, of the actual material, the way he did with the Marvel stuff. Yeah. So this kind of proves that James Gunn is a really good filmmaker that you can trust with your product.
That's right.
It'll be great to see what else he brings with DC.
I love there's a quick little hint of Peacemaker in there also, which I also like. A little snark here, but it was fun.
Right.
So all right, if you haven't seen it, check it out. I think you'll
check it out.
At the movies.
Super fun. Great on the
super
big
fun.
See
super
it on
fun.
the
super cool
movie. Super fun at your next super theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super.
We're coming in.
Bye everybody.
Bye.